How's it going, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be going back to my 2024 NFL draft board, and I've got a fun video for you guys because, of course, the first update of this 1.0 was my offensive edition of. Now we're going to the defensive edition. I've got all of my positions locked out, and I have currently now 255 players on my big board, and there are 256 total picks in the draft, in the 2024 NFL draft. So I'm hopefully probably going to end up with 260. I've got a few players that I might add from the combine, but I'm pretty much maxed out on the guys that I have. Really, it's more about getting the grades and then making sure that I know all these prospects and I have them ranked correctly based on how I think they're going to do. Once again, I'm going to go over quickly my draft grading system. I've got blue chips, first round grades in blue. Then I got my early second round grades here. Of course, you can see the prospect grades and essentially what they mean. But then you have yellow third round grade, brown are the fourth and fifths, and then you have 6th, 7th rounders, and then undrafted. I do have a few undrafted guys. And then once I hit my updates for the offense, I'm probably going to go halfback, wide receiver, or quarterback, halfback on my first update for my 2.0, then wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, or offensive line in general. And then I'm going to go edge, D-line, linebacker, cornerback, safety, special teams. But in this video, I'm going to be trying to go over all the prospects that I currently have on my defensive ranking and give you just a little excerpt, a little bit about these prospects, just to give you a good understanding of where I'm at with them, as well as, the names that are probably going to be called out during the NFL draft, and then also, a relative area of where I think they could go, and also a relative area of how good I think they are as prospects. Once again, these grades are not a actual inclination of where they're going to go. These are not projections. These are how I think of the prospects, of course. And then, as always, if you guys want access to my 2024 NFL draft board, go on my Patreon and support the Patreon page, and you'll get access, obviously, and with the Discord as well. Overall, I do think that this is a decent to good defensive class. I do think last year, I think they're on the same level as last year, but I do like last year's defensive class a lot more. I really did like 2022, the Sauce Gardner, the Aiden Hutchinson draft. I thought that was the best defensive class I've probably evaluated. But let's start off, of course, with the edge class. First off, Laiatu is my edge one. I think he'll end up being my edge one. All three of these guys are really, really close. I already watched the film on Dallas Turner. His video will probably come out in March when I end up doing his prospect breakdown. I see him first on edge a lot. I think that there is a bit of inconsistency in his production. There were the really big splash plays that would end up in sacks, which made his numbers look a lot better. But Laiatu's pressure rate, his pass rush win rate at 26.2, and his true pass set, which is basically like a true pass set for PFF, eliminates all screen plays, it eliminates all wildcats and all just weird plays. It was like 40.0, and I know it was against Pac-12 teams, but he was very dominant. He's a 3-down edge rusher as well. He can defend the run just as good as, and even better than guys like Dallas Turner. Can run defend on the same level as Verse. He did okay at the Senior Bowl. I don't know if it rose him up boards that much, but Laiatu, I think, is my favorite edge rusher in this class. Jared Verse is my second best edge rusher in the class. I think he's the best. He's the most technically sound. He's also a 3-down edge rusher. Can defend the run a little, but he's also a technician, and he's got some real power at the edge position. He's got a great power rush, probably better than the top 3. So like Verse, I just don't see as much potential as these guys. He is the oldest as well at 22 going on 23 out of the top 3 guys. And then obviously Dallas Turner, I think, is the third best out of these guys. But as a pass rusher, I think that Dallas Turner probably has the most potential, and he's got the best speed and bend off of the edge relative to those top 3. And then we move on to my second round guys, which are going to be Braylon Trice, Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Chris Braswell, this group of guys. Braylon Trice is the guy that I think I like more than the rest. Braylon Trice led the FBS in pressures in 2023. However, that came on 950 snaps. He played in all 15 games Washington played in, and he had a 17.6, I think, pass rush win rate, which is solid. They're all solid numbers. He is a bigger edge rusher at around 265, maybe 270. But Braylon Trice is more of a skinnier. He's he's on the skinny side of like 260, but he is built. He's got a compact frame, and he's got a wingspan. So Braylon Trice, I think, maybe has the least potential as a pass rusher compared to the rest of the guys, but he's a solid run defender. He can be a productive pass rusher, but out of the top three, I think he does fall out a bit. And then Chop Robinson's the guy that everybody is really high on. I really do have to get to the film to him to see how much I like him, but I've always had the inclination that maybe Chop Robinson is being a little overrated by people like PFF. I do have him fifth. Of course, I do have him fifth on my board, but Robinson's a little bit of a weird one for me because he has the speed and he has got the bend off at the edge. That stuff is fine. It's just he is not good at defending the run, and Penn State kind of knew that. He was really a two-down edge rusher. What I mean by two-down edge rusher is pass sets, he's always in. So like second down, third, he's in on most second downs. He's in on every third down. But first down and then run defending plays, it's kind of like he's either in or he's not. He only had 300 total snaps and only 3 sacks in 2023. But looking at Chop Robinson, you can see the appeal with the speed and the bend off the edge. He's just got that natural ability. Darius Robinson was a humongous Senior Bowl riser. He weighed in at 286 pounds, 6'5". Dude has also got a long wingspan, and he's got some real power. Some people have him as an interior defensive lineman. I kind of like the fact that he's like a 280-pound 5-tech, which, by the way, a 5-tech is, imagine the offensive tackle is here, and the tight end is here. He fits right in between that. And I like the power he offers at the position. I think if he wants to slide into the 4-eye as a 3-4 defensive end, he can definitely do that as well. Also pretty productive at Missouri. He was probably their best defensive player. But huge Senior Bowl riser. Chris Braswell was the backup edge rusher in 2022 next to Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. Will Anderson leaves, he enters the starting role, and he was just as productive as Dallas Turner, only had one less pressure. Dallas Turner had like 53 maybe, I think, or 54, and then Chris Braswell had 53. Also, he had 9 sacks, I'm pretty sure, either 9 or 10, and also, another guy, productive off of the edge. He's got some good speed. He's got some good pass rush moves. I'm pretty solid on Chris Braswell. And then you move on to the third round guys. Grayson Murphy, I'm going to start off with him. Another tandem guy with Leia too. Gabriel Murphy. He's a very solid edge rusher. Big, he's got some power as well. Did not participate in the Senior Bowl, but he is going to the Combine, so look forward to seeing him there. And his brother, actually, I guess I'll skip all the way down here because this is his twin brother, if I'm not wrong, with Grayson Murphy. Gabriel Murphy is the better one. He was the full 3-down edge at UCLA. He had like 60 pressures. He was a really good run defender. Grayson Murphy is kind of like his brother, but just a little bit downgraded, a little worse of a pass rusher, a little worse of a run defender, a little lighter, I'm pretty sure. But also, I think he's a 4th rounder as well. But Jonah Ellis was the Utah guy. He wears such a crazy number. He wears 83, which is a weird number. That's a tight end number for a defensive end. But Jonah Ellis is good. Another guy, long wingspan, good size as well. Good size. I mean, he is a little not under for a 4-3 defensive end. But I like Jonah Ellis. I think he was solid at Utah. He was leading the FBS in sacks with like 8.5 or 7.5, somewhat mid-season, and then had a little dive off. But I have him over guys like Marshawn Keeland and Javon Solomon. Keeland had a good Senior Bowl. He was a guy that was highlighted a lot in the Senior Bowl. Only had 4.5 sacks, but he had a 19 pass rush win rate, or 17. I forgot exactly what number is. Generates pressure at a good rate. I forgot whether it was him or Kamara I think it's Keelan. Keelan is like 270. He's a big edge rusher. And then you got Javon Solomon. This guy had 15 sacks. I'm pretty sure he had like 15 sacks at Troy. Dominated the Sun Belt Conference on the defensive line. Javon Solomon. It's interesting to see whether he's gonna go to the NFL level and have insane production because it comes from Troy. The trenches is kind of where that deficit you see from the top Power 5 teams to the group of 5 guys. But, I mean, 15 sacks and like 60 pressures is not something you can argue. Again, a good pass rush win rate as well and good efficiency numbers. Muhammad Kamara and Jalen Green. These two are my 2 underrated guys that I have as both 4th round grades. Muhammad Kamara had 10 sacks at Colorado State. And he did great too. His efficiency numbers are really good as well. I think another guy, 19% pass rush win rate. He was graded very highly for PFF. Again, the sack numbers and the pressure numbers were there. Wasn't highlighted too much at the Senior Bowl. I think he attended, but I didn't see him get too much media coverage. And then Jalen Green. This was the JMU guy who he was leading the FBS, the college football in sacks for a long time before he got hurt in around like week 12. But he had 15 and a half sacks, and he was also really high up there in the pressure numbers. But again, it's JMU or James Madison University. They were a ranked team in the end of the year, and he was a big reason why, especially on defense, best defensive player. And yeah, I think he's super underrated. I don't see him get a lot of media coverage either, mainly because, James Madison, first year in the FBS. You got Adisa Isaac. Adisa Isaac's got some really good speed and bend off of the edge. Again, similar to a guy like Chop Robinson, but I think he's a more budget version. A bit less, a lot less productive than the guys like, I would say Adisa Isaac is the least productive guy compared to, honestly, until you get to Chop Robinson. Adisa Isaac only had like 30 pressures, only had 2 sacks, something like that. But, I mean, the speed and the bend off the edge, I think he is going to be a situational pass rusher, and I think that's kind of going to be his only role. Again, not a run defender at all. But, I mean, that's good enough in the NFL. That is definitely going to make you enough money. I already talked about Grayson Murphy a little bit when I talked about his brother Gabriel. Jaleel Harrell is the guy, Senior Bowl tape. Got a little hype there. Got some good power. He's my favorite guy, or favorite Michigan defensive lineman that went to the draft. By the way, I'm wrong. Chris Jenkins. I'll get to him when I get to the interior defensive lineman. But I liked him off the edge. Austin Booker, Xavier Thomas, Nelson Caesar, Brandon Jackson, and Justin Igbiagi. Some of these names, 255 names, some of them are a little hard to pronounce. Gigby. Okay. Start off with Austin Booker. Again, another Senior Bowl invite guy. I think 8 sacks maybe at Kansas. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. Xavier Thomas was a 5-star recruit back in high school. He's had a lot of hype from Clemson. Just that hasn't put it all together. But he's got some good power. He's a bigger edge rusher. Nelson Caesar out of Houston. Again, this guy's more of a speed rusher. Brandon Jackson out of Washington State. Don't know the most about him, but I have put him on the list because I hear other guys talking about him on Twitter. That's one of the guys that I definitely need to learn more about. I'm obviously not going to talk out of my ass to you guys. And then Justin, I'm just going to call him Justin for now. He was the other Alabama guy. He was their situational guy. He was like the Chris Braswell of last year, where he was their third down pass rusher, blitzing guy, 7 sacks at Alabama, and he was solid as well. And then you got guys like Zion Tupelo-Fatui out of Washington. I think he'll end up moving to more of a jack kind of role. He is a bit thinner, or he is just flat out is thinner for an edge rusher position. He had a good year in 2022, but fell off a little bit this year. I think he was just given a lot less of a role as a pass rusher. And then obviously just not really winning on his reps. His pass rush win rate was only like 13, only like 12, something really low. And his run defense was a little lower as well. I think he more fits into a jack linebacker role, like a blitzing, strong side type of linebacker. And then Eric Watts out of UConn. Shout out to my UConn guys. I'm from Connecticut as well. Underrated. Another Senior Bowl guy. I think he rushed from the interior as well. I think he was maybe put as an IDL in the Senior Bowl. I do have an edge because he played the majority on the outside at UConn this year. Underrated guy. He's got some power as well. And then you got Braden McGregor out of Michigan, the other Michigan edge rusher that declared. I think he only had 4 sacks or 3, something like that. Cedric Johnson out of Ole Miss. I'm low on him. I think I might move him down to a 7th rounder, honestly. Because he had a really low pass rush win rate, only something like 8%, something real low. He had a bad PFF grade. He had a bad run grade. He just had a bad year overall, but he did declare because I think this was his last year at college. And then you got guys like Jackson Hunt out of Houston Christian. I just found his name off of him, like mock draft simulators. I looked into him. He played pretty well and he got a combine invite as well, but pretty much played very well at Houston Christian, which is a FCS school. And then you got Brian Agua out of Miami, situational pass rusher guy. Solomon Byard out of USC, and then Javonte Jean Baptiste out of Notre Dame. These guys round out these 7th rounders and then undrafted guys. Let's move on to the interior defensive lineman class, which is one of my favorite positions in the draft because it kind of showcases some of my favorite guys, just some of the guys that I really, really like. Byron Murphy II, almost 17 minutes in, I spent a little too much time in the edge class. Byron Murphy II is a guy that I really, really like. Whenever I was watching a Texas game, he was always just the superstar, I thought, on that defensive line. His double team rate was super high, but he led the FBS in pass rush win rate at 19.6, 9.6. Pass rushing productivity rate was PFF's highest graded run, led the FBS in pass rush grade for all interior defensive linemen at 91.5. He is a great pass rusher. I can't wait to watch the film on him. I have him as a mid-first round grade, and he'll probably be in my top 10. I'm very high on Byron Murphy. I think he can be a very great addition on the defensive line, especially as a pass rusher. He was double teamed so much, and he led the FBS in pass rush win rate. Like that's just a sign that he's going to be a really good pass rusher. 45 pressures and 5 sacks at Texas. Very good. You have Jer'Zhan Newton, a guy that I also really like, really high on him in 2022. This year, he had 46 pressures. He had 8 sacks at Illinois. Good run defender, but very solid as a pass rusher, 15% pass rush win rate. And then you get to Tavondre Sweat. And then this guy is just a run defending monster, 12.8 run stop rate, which is very high. He was the highest graded run defender according to PFF at 92. He won the Outland Trophy, which is the best offensive line / interior defensive lineman award. And he was an All-American, I'm pretty sure. Him and Jer'Zhan Newton, both All-Americans. Sweat is the best run defender, I think, in this best run defender other than maybe Tyler Davis and maybe Chris Jenkins. Really like Tavondre Sweat. I have all these guys. I'm probably going to end up having first-round grades on them. I think that Tavondre Sweat's also an underrated pass rusher. I know he only had like 2 sacks, but at 360 pounds, this man's huge. And he played the 3 tech. Byron Murphy's 308, and he played the nose, which is like the 0 tech that's right above the center. And then you had Tavondre Sweat, who played the 3 tech or the 2I, which is the defensive tackle role. If they switched them, who knows? I think that they did that just so Byron Murphy could eat up the double teams, and he would still do just crazy things as a pass rusher, and then Tavondre Sweat would get better one-on-ones so that he could shed blocks more and just be a clogger instead of a nose tackle. It's interesting to see what an NFL team is going to do with Tavondre Sweat, whether they want to push him into a nose role or a 3 tech role, which is he can play both. He's athletic enough at 360 pounds. Then you got Braden Fisk. This guy was the Senior Bowl defensive MVP for the national team or the American team, I forgot which one, but Braden Fisk was dominating the Senior Bowl. He's very technically sound. He's great pass rushing interior defensive lineman, another solid run defending guy. Brandon Dorlus out of Oregon. He's got some nice pass rush moves because he was an edge defender. He was actually an edge rusher last year in 2022, and then he moved to more of a 4I role, I see him as a 3 or as a 4-3 defensive end at the NFL level, but he's got some nice pass rush moves for the interior. Chris Jenkins is a clogger. He's more of that run defending style of guy. Not the best pass rusher. Whenever there was on, he would always get subbed out on third downs for Mason Graham and Gareth Grant. Those were the two best interior defensive pass rushers for Michigan. But Chris Jenkins was that first second down guy to really clog up the run. Michael Hall Jr., pass rushing guy. I've seen him 2 years at Ohio State. I thought he was, again, very well. 7th interior defensive lineman here. 15%, 16% pass rush win rate, which is very solid for an interior defensive lineman. And then you got Leonard Taylor. Leonard Taylor, again, 15% pass rush win rate. I think he was really up there in pressures as well for interior defensive linemen. He gets a lot of hype in mock draft simulators where they're like, he's going to go in the second round. He has potential to go in the first round. I don't think so. I've got a ton of guys over him. But, I mean, Leonard Taylor, like, solid run defender, solid pass rusher. He's got developmental traits for me. And then you got Tyler Davis. Sorry. You got Tyler Davis out of Clemson. I think he's a nose tackle at the next level. He's like 310, maybe not 320, but he was the second highest graded run defender next to Tavondre Sweat. I think he plays a run defending role at the NFL level. And then you got Mekhi Wingo. Everybody thought that Mason Smith was going to have the really good year this year at LSU because Mason Smith was super highly recruited out of high school, had a really good freshman year. Then he tore his ACL and had to come back this year. But Mekhi Wingo ended up being the better defensive lineman there, 5 sacks, 10% pass rush win rate, decent run stop rate, but not the best. He's a little undersized, just a little undersized. I think he's around 300 something pounds. But Mekhi Wingo, I think I'm going to have him as a 6 flat, which is, by the way, a 6 flat is developmental traits right over here. Or you can't see it on the screen, but I think I'm going to have him as a guy. Maybe it's a boomer bust. I think that he's got some potential, definitely as a defensive lineman. However, I also think that there's a chance that might get overpowered in the run game a little bit, might not harness that pass rushing ability to the fullest. And then let's go to the third round guys, Muruk Ohorhoro out of Clemson. Again, 3 tech guy, solid. When we get to that, now we're getting to the guys that are a little bit, lower. McKinley Jackson, Texas A&M, another solid guy. I have been seeing him getting hyped. Maybe I've seen people put him in the third round. I'd maybe 4th or 5th round guy for me. And then you got Mason Smith. This is, again, I talked about him a tiny bit. High recruit out of high school. Had a great freshman year, tore his ACL, and then came back. I think he should. I really do think he should have went back to school, because I think he could have just continued to develop. I think he had one more year of eligibility because of that ACL tear. But now he's got really good potential, but I don't see him being an impact in the run game. He is also undersized. I think he's around 295, maybe 300 flat. But the pass rush potential is there. And then you got guys like Keith Randolph. This was the guy next to Jer'Zhan, another 3 tech here. Keith Randolph, Senior Bowl invite. Solid guy. Little less of a run defender, but as a pass rusher, he's pretty solid. Fabian Levette, another guy from FSU, right next to Braden Fisk, another solid guy. Christian Boyd was the UNI. I forgot what school that even is, but Combine invite guy. You should look out for him. Got a great athletic ability, super highly graded. I think he had a 90 grade for PFF for the FCS. Like Christian Boyd, and then you got Marcus Harris out of Auburn, Dwayne Carter, Evan Anderson. These guys are all, middling for me. These are the guys that I kind of like a bit less. I see these guys, some of them might be undrafted in favor of some FBS athletic guys or some nose tackles. And then Nazir Stackhouse is my last guy. I know a lot of people are going to know his name because he was at Georgia for a long time. He can run defend, but boy, he cannot pass rush. His pass rushing ability is, I think he had like a 2% pass rush win rate. But he can run defend, but I don't know. He'll be like a low 250 pick probably, in my opinion. Moving on to the inside linebacker class, There are two guys that I really like a lot, which is Peyton Wilson and Jer'Zhan Cooper. I might move these guys up. They're both in my top 50 easily. Peyton Wilson was in probably my top 40. Jer'Zhan Cooper is in my top 45. I'm probably going to move these guys up because Peyton Wilson, athletic freak. He was a coverage monster, 44% passer rating allowed, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. He is also a great pass rusher. He's fast. He's got the size at 6'3", 240. He won the Defensive Player of the Year for the FBS. I forgot what award it was called, but he was named Defensive Player of the Year. And he did deserve it. And NC State would not be the same without him on defense. He's got some injury concerns and some age stuff. He's 23 years old now, and he had a huge injury in 2021. But Peyton Wilson, to me, is the best linebacker. He is like a pure Mike. Like, he can really do everything. He can run, defend, he can blitz, he can cover, he can play tight ends. He's got the size. He's probably going to kill the combine. I probably am going to end up moving him to an early second-round grade. I do like Peyton Wilson. And then you got Jer'Zhan Cooper. This is a guy that Daniel Jeremiah loves a lot. Jer'Zhan Cooper reminds me a lot of like Patrick Queen, or Patrick Queen, a Devin White kind of guy, where Jer'Zhan Cooper is like a mid-blitz, A-gap blitzer, or a C-gap blitzer. Cooper had 8 sacks in 2023, and a lot of them were from blitzes. But Jer'Zhan Cooper also has ability in man coverage because he's got the athleticism and speed to run with guys. He can definitely cover tight ends. He does have the size. I wouldn't put him more as like not a strong side, but I think what do I have him for my depth chart? I have him as my weak side 1. Okay. So I just corrected myself there by looking at my own notes. Jer'Zhan Cooper, he could also probably cover slots, but I like Peyton Wilson and Jer'Zhan Cooper a lot. And then after that, I think that there is a fall off. I wouldn't say I hate this interior linebacker class, but I think it's gotten worse and worse as in the last 5 drafts. The last great linebacker I've seen come out, I don't even know, because my first draft that I started covering was 2022, and I really didn't get to see great linebackers really come out. Patrick Queen was maybe the best linebacker prospect I've seen. But yeah, Jeremiah Trotter is a cover guy. He is another Mike. I see him being a great cover guy in the NFL. Junior Colson, Michigan, and Michael Barrett as well. They're both Michigan linebackers. That tandem, both very solid in the run department, and also solid cover guys. And then Cedric Gray, it rounds out my top 6. I think the top 6 guys are all players that would perfectly comfortably go in within the first 4 rounds. And then after that, I've got a ton of 5th, 6th, and 7th round linebackers because that's kind of what I think is going to happen. I don't see teams reaching for linebackers in this class. And there also is not a lot of size. Here, like Peyton Wilson is 238. Trotter is 240. And then you got Colson around 230. Barrett is 220 something. Cedric Gray is around also 225 maybe. I don't know exactly how to say Edufuan Olufashio. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Maybe I gotta practice his name when I talk about the inside linebacker unit. But like him, he was the best linebacker, I think, from Washington. He was their Mike, solid run defender. Marist Liafu, another hard linebacker to pronounce. Marist Liufua. Inside linebacker out of Notre Dame, another solid guy, solid in coverage, high graded well. Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State is a tackle machine. Dude was top 5 in tackles in the last 3 years at the FBS level. I'm fairly certain. And then Jalen Ford rounds out my 5th round guys out of Texas. When I was watching a little bit of Byron Murphy, I always saw him getting involved in the run defense department. JT Bertrand out of Notre Dame is also declared with Marist, another solid guy out of Notre Dame. I'm a little lower on him than Marist. Trice Knight, combine invite. People should know about him. UTEP guy, highly graded, good athleticism. And you got guys that are a little lower on: Curtis Jackson, Tevin Wallace, Omar Spates, and then Tyron Hooper. Let's get into the cornerback class because I've seen a ton of discourse. I've seen a ton of discourse about the cornerback class. I currently have 30 cornerbacks on my list right now. The cornerback classes, I do like it. I think I really have interesting rankings here, which I can guarantee you these are probably going to change. Because I have not done any study on the cornerback class other than this. The cornerback class was my last group that I actually did my research on, and I think the cornerback class is going to start a lot of discussion in this class because you got a bunch of guys that I think are directly next to each other, like literally like Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Wiggins, Arnold, McKinstry. They're all in like this line, which is I think they're all borderline first rounders. I don't see any one of these guys being, in my opinion, like I think they're all probably first rounders, but in grading wise, it's like one of them is gonna. There are some boomer busts in this class. The one guy that I think I would be that I'm higher on than the rest because I kind of know about him the most is Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean, he's got that white boy magic at cornerback. I think he'll be the first white cornerback selected in the first round in the last, 50 years, which is such an insane thing to think about. But Cooper DeJean, Iowa guy, he had a 30-something passer rating allowed in 2022, like a 50 passer rating allowed this year. Kick returning ability, athleticism. He's got the size. He's like 6'1", 200 flat, something like that. And he can play boundary. I think he is going to get forced into a safety slot role, like slash boundary kind of guy, like a two role. But I think that Cooper DeJean is good enough to play the boundary. It just really determines how he gets on an NFL field and if we see that's true. Quinyon Mitchell is my underrated cornerback. He's super underrated because he's out of Toledo. Nobody really knows about him other than if you're paying attention to the Senior Bowl. He did very well there. 6'1", something like 195. He's got great athleticism. He was, his Toledo tape, I saw a little bit on Twitter. It's, like these cornerbacks are not better than him. He's just better than pretty much every cornerback there. So we have to see some tape against FBS guys on the Senior Bowl, and I think he held his own. I think he did pretty well. Nate Wiggins is a guy that I've been high on ever since like week 6. I had him as my cornerback 1 for the longest time before I moved Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell up. Him and Terrion Arnold, I think, are on like and Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think it's either I grade them the same, like a 6.39 or 6.38, and I just give them all the same grade, or I just figure out and watch the tape and see which one is actually better. Nate Wiggins, I think, can work in a man and zone role. He's also tall at 6'2", and he's got good hands. He can catch interceptions. He can really travel with the best cornerbacks. I do like Nate Wiggins a ton. Terrion Arnold, I have a few questions about with his stride and maybe his like long speed, like straight go speed. He could get burned at the NFL level, but I mean, his production was great. 5 interceptions. He was super highly graded for PFF. As a run defender, 90.5 run defense grade. He's got good size. The only one thing that I don't necessarily know is the concerns about maybe speed. And I mean, that's kind of it. The speed the natural maybe speed. But 5 interceptions. He's got great hands. He's going to be, if I were to give maybe a pro comp, it would be Diggs probably. Maybe like a Trayvon Diggs kind of guy. Maybe like a Deron Bland. Just pick monsters, really. I think that's what Terrion Arnold could be at the NFL level. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry, I liked a lot in the off season. I liked him a lot. His footwork is good. He can play definitely in a man role at the NFL level. He's fluid at the cornerback position. Overall, he's just solid. He's a little thin, but it's kind of mattering less nowadays for corners. He plays. I think he more fits in a man role, or like a zone boundary role, which is kind of the same. And then Kamari Lassiter. Now we get to the second round guys. Kamari Lassiter and then Ennis Rickenshaw, Chris Abrams-Drain, the 2 Missouri guys. Talk about Lassiter first. Lassiter is definitely a man guy. I think he's definitely a man guy at the NFL level. The only one thing that is a little bit interesting when I was looking at him was his 1 interception in 3 years, 2 years starting. He's not going to play the ball. He's either going to bat down the ball or he's going to fight it away. Or he's just going to blanket you and not let you open. I think Lassiter is pretty underrated. I have him as my CB6. Ennis Rickenstraw and Chris Abrams-Durain, whenever I got to see them at Missouri, they played very well. Especially against Ohio State. Like, no Ohio State receivers was getting open all that game. Colin McCord. No, he didn't even play in that game. But yeah, they were blanketing those Ohio State guys. And I would prefer Ennis Rickenstraw a little bit, but Chris Abrams-Durain, like, they're both pretty similar cornerbacks and pretty similar archetypes. But like those guys, I'm a big Dwight McGlothern and Cam Hart and Jarvis Brownlee guy. Actually, I'm high on all of these guys, actually. Dwight McGlothern, he had like a 90 PFF grade. He was great in coverage. He allowed a very good passer rating allowed. I'm pretty sure it was within the 40s or the 50s. When I did a game for PFF, by the way, I'm a data analyst for Pro Football Focus. When I got to watch McGlothern, because I was doing the defense for that game, he did very good. He's got some good size and good length at the cornerback position, like McGlothern. Cam Hart, I became aware of him when I was watching my Marvin Harrison Jr. film. I watched the Notre Dame game, and Cam Hart was when Cam Hart was on him, he did a very good job. And at the Senior Bowl, Cam Hart had a really good Senior Bowl as well. I don't know. He didn't get an interception in the game. It was somebody else. No, it was Jarvis Brownlee. I don't know why I forgot that. But Cam Hart, good size as well. And then you get to Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Like, this guy blew up the Senior Bowl. I think he was the biggest draft riser from the Senior Bowl because I didn't even know him. I did not know Jarvis Brownlee Jr. before the Senior Bowl, and now I'm like, give him a 3rd-round grade. It's not just because of that. It's because I looked into him a little bit more, and I was like, wow, he played FSU transfer. He played good at Louisville, but the Senior Bowl was just like, dude, this guy's running routes for the receiver. He's got the play recognition with this guy. And then you got TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. Underrated guy. I do want to learn more about him. His passer rating allowed was very low. I think it was 50-something. But you got like him, or I should learn more about him in the future. And then you got Renardo Green. Underrated guy at FSU. He had an 83 grade, but he had a great Senior Bowl. He probably fits in his own role in the NFL level, I would say. And then you have Jer'Zhan Jones, again, another FSU guy in the slot. He is my slot 1 or 2 because he had a 90 PFF grade within the slot and a 29% passer rating allowed, which is 29% passer rating. I don't care if it's within the slot. Slot cornerbacks are having a much increased role. Like, look at Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie was probably the best player on defense next to Chris Jones in the Super Bowl. And he was an all-pro. Look at Michael Carter II. Look at Devin Witherspoon. Good slot guys who are great on the pass game and who are good in the run game. Maybe Gerard Green isn't as good as like Witherspoon in the run game, or McDuffie as a pass rusher. But Gerard Green, I think, is up there within the slot guys. Josh Newton had a lot of hype in the beginning of the year. I think it's fallen off a little bit. Oh, my. Didn't mean to do that. Josh Newton, his hype's fallen off a little bit. I still think I will have a 4th-round grade on him. Kyrie Jackson at Oregon, another solid guy there. Mike Sainristil still. A lot of people are going to talk about him. Another slot guy that played phenomenal at Michigan. Got an interception in the national championship. No, did he? No. He might have. I'm pretty sure Sainristil got an interception in the national championship, but he is my slot 2, right next to Jer'Zhan Jones. I think I might, but there is a potential that I might having him above Jones. DJ James at Auburn, another Senior Bowl guy, had a good Senior Bowl. A little bit of more compact, shorter cornerback, but still solid. Sebastian Castro at Iowa, another. I don't know if he's white, but another guy out of Iowa that's declared for this draft. Keep on doing that. Chew Smith-Wade had an interception in the had an interception in the Senior Bowl game. And the one thing that is notable about him is the hands. Like, he looks like a wide receiver. And I watched 2 Washington State games, and I think he had the interception in the game that I watched. Kalen King and Kamal Hayden are 2 guys that are very interesting to me because they both have 2 different, maybe not 2 different, but they have like 2 strange resumes. Because Kalen King was good cornerback in 2022, like super highly graded. His passer rating was low. This year, he didn't have as great of a year, but he wasn't bad at Penn State. He was still traveling with the 1. But then you get to the Senior Bowl, and he was ass. He was not good in the Senior Bowl. I don't know if I saw him win a rep. He was getting dunked on, routed. He allowed a touchdown in the actual game, I'm pretty sure. Kalen King was a huge Senior Bowl faller for me. I don't know. I wasn't really high on Kalen King in 2022 or coming out of the draft. And even like throughout the season, I never had him above like a late 2nd round grade. But, you know, Marvin Harrison kind of abused him. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. Like that's like a future NFL, I think, Pro Bowler. But like, Kalen King couldn't do anything against him. Kamal Hayden is such an interesting guy. He had his passer rating allowed was 7.0, which is like ridiculous. But he cannot tackle. I don't think he can. He blew a huge tackle. I forgot which week it was, but his missed tackle rate was super high. His tackle grade was like in the 40s. His run defense grade is really low. But I mean, 7 passer rating allowed is something that you just can't ignore. Josh Wallace was a UMass transfer that went to Michigan and played pretty well. Obviously not maybe as good as Sanders, still not as good as Will Johnson. Shout out to him. I think he's my best cornerback in next year's draft. Kalen Carson's a guy that I see not mocked, but in like the mock draft simulators, he's within the first like 4 rounds. He had a 100-something passer rating allowed and allowed 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. I'm super low on him. Max Melton out of Rutgers, been the best cornerback, maybe the best defensive player in all of Rutgers last year. And then you got Johnny Dixon, the other Penn State cornerback outside of him. Bit more ball productivity. I think he had 2-3 interceptions as well. And then Nehemiah Pritchett at Auburn, Marcellus Dial, Andrew Phillips, and then Daquan Hardy, the slot guy out of Penn State. The lower cornerback guys I'm not super high on, but I do like the top, I would say, 13 cornerbacks. I would be very comfortable at taking all these guys within the first 3 rounds of the draft. Now let's quickly, with less than 10 minutes of your time, let me get to the safeties and let me get to the special teams. Carmen Kinchins is my cornerback 1. I like him the most. He had the most ball productivity out of any cornerback. 5 interceptions in 2023, 6 interceptions in 2020, in 2022. The ball productivity is there. 11 interceptions in the last 2 years is something that's very notable. Free safety, center fielder role. He plays the whole field. Good athleticism, combine invite. I think he's the best cornerback in the draft, or the best slot guy, or not safety. I'm losing my mind over here. Tyler Nubin, I have as the best, or my second best cornerback at Minnesota. Played very good. Can play the run. Can play the cover. Oh no, maybe not play the run. I'll play the run a little bit, but he's more of a cover guy. Very low passing rating allowed. Few interceptions. I'm pretty sure it was like 2 maybe. Let me know if I'm wrong there. Tyler Nubin got him high, as well as Kalen Bullock. Kalen Bullock was probably the best USC defender. He was always making big plays, especially in overtime with a few pass deflections. He had around 10 PBUs, as well as 2 interceptions. But he had 5 picks in 2022 when he was actually given a little bit more room to work with. But the linebacker core and front 7 from USC was just so terrible, and they had such a bad cornerback group that, you know, USC's defense was bad last year. And that really hurts his draft stock, I think, because I think he's a very solid cornerback, and I think I'm going to have him graded within the 3rd round. But Javon Bullard, I've seen him a few times at Georgia, solid guy. Cole Bishop, another guy, solid at Utah. Had 2 interceptions in I forgot what Utah game it was. But Tyleek Tyke Smith out of Georgia, slot guy, cover guy, little bit of run defend. Kitten Oladapo out of Oregon State is another slot guy, or slot safety role. Plays more in the box. I think he will play in the slot at the NFL level. His PFF grade was like 90, 91 maybe. Then you have James Williams. James Williams is, I think, will end up being a strong side linebacker in the NFL level because he's 6'5", 200 and like, maybe not strong side linebacker, that's wrong. I think he's more of a hybrid, Isaiah Simmons type of hybrid player, where he's going to play more closer to the line of scrimmage. He did play a slot or a strong safety role at Miami, but he wasn't great. He was fine. I just don't see I don't think he's athletic enough to play like that safety, he's just more of a big nickel, more of he plays more like a linebacker, which is fine, but I'm going to have a 5th round grade on him. Jalen Simpson's another slot guy. I see a lot of mock draft simulators have him as a cornerback. He did play the majority of the time at safety at Auburn, but he is another guy. I think his slot, he's got slot hybrid. Bew Braid out of Maryland, another safety, probably the safety that I'm looking at the most to do more information on. Jaden Hicks, Washington State. Sione Vaki. He is such an interesting guy. Sione Vaki, he had like 4 touchdowns in the span of 5 games as like a running back, which is such a weird thing, but that's obviously what Utah's going to do. Utah, like, their scheme is so crazy. And he, like, a full-time strong safety playing a running back is like, who came up with that idea? But I think he had like 150, maybe 200 offensive snaps in the whole year, that's very interesting. So if he wants to have some offensive hybrid role, sure. But as a strong safety, he's all right. Jer'Zhan Taylor Demerson, Texas A&M, Malik Mustafa, Josh Proctor out of Ohio State, Kenny Logan Jr., Kansas, and then Damani Richardson out of Texas A&M are going to round out the safety class. I think it's all right. I'm all right on the safety class. It reminds me a little bit of last year. Last year, I hated the safety class. Hopefully, the Combine brings a few of these guys up with some athletic numbers. And then quickly, let's just talk about the special teams while I got 2 minutes left. Will Reichard, most points in FBS history. Kicker for Alabama for like 6 years now, 5 years. He's good. He can make some 50-yarders. But I don't really care about drafting kickers at all in the NFL draft. You could just find them in free agency or hope a team cuts a good kicker and he gets hot for you. Torrey Taylor was the All-American punter out of Iowa. Very solid. His net was like a 48. He had 30 plus inside the 20. Harrison Melvis out of Missouri. Guy, I think he had the most 50-yard makes out of all these guys. Joshua Kitty was I don't know if he was an All-American. I don't know who the All-American kicker was. But Joshua Carty and Cam Little are my 2 undrafted kickers. So that's going to round out my defense and I guess special teams rankings. Again, if you guys want this draft board, it is on my Patreon. Link is in the description. You made it this far. Thank you for sitting with me. The next video you're going to see is probably going to be after the Combine, and it's where I'm going to give my official grades for 2 or 3 of each position group. But that's going to do it for the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.